Today I'm going to do a quick object lesson just to show you a little bit about resisting temptation. So you know those days where you could get in a bit of trouble, and to get out of the trouble you're very tempted to tell a lie? That's temptation. Or perhaps that day whenever your brother or sister is really just irritating you, getting on your guts, and you feel, yeah, I need to throw something at them. Again, that's temptation. Or perhaps maybe those times where you're on your phones or your tablets and your mom and dad say, listen, time to put that away, and then you're very tempted just to disobey them and just carrying on. Well, that's all temptation. And so when you've got all this temptation around and then you actually act on it, what happens is you get into the temptation and you come out all full of sin. And obviously with sin we can't be with God. Now Jesus, when he was talking about the Lord's Prayer, he said we need to pray when you say, lead us not into temptation and deliver us from evil. And how did he go about doing it when he was in the desert? Well, he knew the word, and so he used the word to get out of the temptation. And that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be reading our Bibles, understanding the word, and praying that God helps us to resist temptation. And so whenever we are tempted to lie, we can remember the word says, actually, just speak the truth. Or when we're tempted to get angry, we can say, what does the word say? It says, make sure that love is your highest aim. Or whenever your parents, you're tempted to disobey your parents, you can remember that God says, no, you must obey your parents. And so we can pray about that and resist the temptation to do wrong. And when we resist the temptation by praying and even saying the word, it's almost like temptation flees from us and we remain clean without sin. And so we're tempted to sin, but we don't sin. And so that's just a little object lesson that you can show your friends of how to resist temptation when it comes along.
So remember, when we face temptation, there's two things that we can do. One is we can read the Bible and find out what the right thing is to do. And the other thing is to trust God and pray to Him. We can ask Him to help us to resist temptation. So for today's prayer activity, why don't you think about all the things that tempt you? And then what you can do is you can make some puzzle pieces like I've made. So if I'm tempted to not obey my parents, I can write the little verse underneath, Ephesians 4 verse 1, that reminds me, children, obey your parents because you belong to the Lord, for this is the right thing to do. And then I can spend some time just praying, God, please help me to obey my parents. Here are some other prayers that you could pray. When you're tempted to say something mean, Ephesians 4 verse 29 tells us that don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. And then you can pray and ask God to please help you not to say mean things, but rather encourage others. When you're tempted to lie, Colossians 3 verse 9 tells us that don't lie to each other. And Ephesians 4 verse 15 says, instead, speak truth. And you can pray and ask God to please help you to not lie, but rather speak your truth. When you're tempted to worry, and during this time we can worry, remember 1 Peter 5 verse 7. It says, give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares for you. And then you can ask God to help you to trust Him more and not to worry. You might be tempted to get angry. 1 Corinthians 14 verse 1 reminds us that love needs to be our highest goal. And you can pray, God, please let me show love to others instead. I'm sure you can come up with a whole lot of other examples and draw your own pictures and make your own puzzles too. Or you can find some activities on Seesaw. Hope to see you in our classroom.